Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take you now through the very intricate detail of tasting wines, and believe me, hopefully after you've watched this video you can see that it's actually very easy as long as you stick to the basics and follow the 3 easy guidelines, which is the appearance, the nose and the palate. Today we're going to be tasting our Captain's Table range, which is a wine that we've produced at the hotel by ourselves, the food and beverage team. And we've decided on 2 wines, a white and a red, both being blended wines. The white one consists of 80% Sauvignon Blanc and a 20% addition of Semillon that we've sourced from the Algan region of the Western Cape. For the red, once again a blend as I've mentioned, and it consists of 80% Cabernet Sauvignon for a little bit of structure and backbone, and just to soften it up with a little bit of Merlot, my apologies, Cabernet Shiraz, 20%. To make up our 2 blends that we call the Captain's Table. May I remind you that these products are exclusively for the hotel, and you can find it nowhere else in the world, or in Cape Town for that matter. Basically, when you taste wines, you follow 3 very simple rules, and the whole idea when we taste wine is to identify first of all what the wine is, to give us a little bit of a background as to what the cultivar is, the style of the wine, and where it comes from, the origin of course. And now as you can see before me, I've poured 2 wines, a white wine and a red wine. Now the 2 is, apart from the color, obviously the one is white and the one is red. Now wines, because it's something that's alive, it tells us a story, it hints at us as to what the cultivar is, the style of the wine, and also where it comes from. So I'm going to start with the white wine first, and I'm going to go through the steps for the white wine, and then we'll do the red, and we follow the same procedure. As you can see with this wine, it's a very light yellowish color, not too dark as in yellow. So it's got I would say it's a clear color with a touch of yellow-green. And basically if you get that in a white wine, it can tell you a number of very crucial things about the wine itself. It can either tell you that the wine is unwooded, meaning that it hasn't spent any time in oak barrels whatsoever, or it can be that the wine is often very young for a white wine, or the alcohol levels is fairly low. Now those are all things that you look up based on what you see, and that we call the appearance. Now more than 80% of a wine tasting, and the very important part of a wine tasting, is the actual nose, because over 80% of our tasting experience is based on what we smell. And I'll give you a very simple explanation. If you walk into a bakery, before you even know that the cake is going to be sweet, automatically your nose tells the brain that if you're going to eat of that cake, you can expect it to be sweet. The exact same principle applies for wine, and therefore whatever you smell, more than 80% chance that is what you're going to taste. So therefore most of the experience comes from the nose, and in the palate just basically confirming to what you have smelled. So the first appearance would be, like I said, is to look at the wine, the appearance. It gives some clues. Like I said, it can either be, and this is a very pale green color, so the wine can either be very young for white wine, or it hasn't spent any time in wood whatsoever, or the alcohol can be very low. Now if I swirl the wine now to move on to the next step, which is going to be the nose. On the nose you look at various things. You look at the fruit character of the wine. First of all, with the nose of the wine, wine should always be clean. There should be no off odors. It shouldn't smell like rotten fruit or rotten eggs whatsoever. Wine, if it's fresh, it must always have it must be a good experience when you nose the wine. It mustn't be something that's awful. If you do, then the chance that the wine might be faulty is very high. So you nose the wine, and in the nose you look at the fruit character, you look at the intensity of the fruit character, because the intensity of the fruit character will tell you the quality of the wine. So if I smell, I get loads of Granny Smith apples, but it's not that intense. It's like you get wafts of Granny Smith apples and a little bit of green grass and maybe a gentle hint of guava. But the intensity of the wine, of what you pick up on the nose, can tell you the quality of the wine. Now, for this particular wine, it's a very light, easy wine made for easy drinking, uncomplicated, and it's ideal for an aperitif. And all of those you can easily spot on the appearance. It's a very young wine. In fact, it's 2011, so it's about 1 year old, fairly light, very minimal wood contact, and that we can also pick up on the color. It's not a very deep dark yellow color, and also the alcohol is about 13.5%, which can also be noticed on the color, because if it was a very dark color, it would have possibly had a very high alcohol. And also the sugar levels of this wine is absolutely dry, so it means that the sugar levels of this wine is 5 grams or less. In this case, it's about 3.5, also indicating in the quality, in the color, that's very light. Now for red wine, color is obviously, it's darker, it's got a red color. Now for red wines, when you look at the wine, it tells you a different story with regards to the color. For white wines, if it's a light greenish color, the wine is often very young. For red wine, if it's a dark inky color, it often means that the wine is very young. Opposite for the white. Also, with regards to the color of the wine, you are not allowed to add any color. So therefore, all the color comes from the skin of the grape, which means this wine was made from a red grape with a red skin. And also, you get various different types of red wines with different skins. Some have got thick skins, some has got very light skins. So therefore, the color of the wine and the depth of the wine will often hint at the variety. Like Cabernet Sauvignon and Shiraz will have a thick, deep red color, whereas Pinot Noir and Sangiovese will have like a not so deep color because they've got thin skin, and therefore you cannot make wine from them that's got a very deep color like this. Now, if you remember, I told you in the beginning that this wine is a blend of 80% Cabernet Sauvignon, hence the color is very dark, and also 20% Shiraz, another thick-skinned variety, which is typical of these varietals. Then also, same procedure follows. You move away from appearance as to, now you've got a basic idea as to what the wine might be, the variety, and then you move to the nose, where you pick up once again, is the wine clean? Has it got no off odors? And then you start looking at the fruit intensity. What do you pick up? Now for white wines, you would usually find, or you would look for green fruits or yellow fruits, which is typical of a white wine. For red wine, you would generally move away from the green and the yellow fruits, and you would move towards more your reds and darker red fruits. And Cabernet Sauvignon is quite known to have characteristics of blackcurrant and cassis, and Shiraz, on the other hand, will often hint at sweet spices or prunes. And if I nose this wine, that is exactly what I'm getting. Not as intense as a big, powerful style of wine, because once again, this wine is a very light style, and therefore it's very easy. It doesn't acquire decanting and long aging potential. The wine was made purely to be enjoyed in its youth, and therefore the color is, believe me, you get darker than this. And last but not least, on the palate you basically confirm, do I taste blackcurrants and cassis? Yes or no? Do I get lots of sweet spices? Yes or no? And the nice thing about wine tasting is that it's very personal. So I can get lots of guavas and granadaillas on wine number 1, where you might get lots of citrus flavors. The nice thing about wine tasting is that we are all correct. There's no wrong answers, because our palates are very, very different. And maybe you might be sensitive to citrus fruits, so therefore you will pick it up more pronounced as I would. And I might be sensitive to guava, so I will pick up guava first and maybe the citrus flavors to follow.